We are ready to go with this and another one of a great night, a great program tonight, actually. And you have anything exciting that happened in your life there, Renee?
This was a week of work, 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 but I finally feel healthy for the first time in weeks. I didn't catch a new cold this week, so I was very happy. Just in time for all the pollen bombs to start going off, but that's okay.
How about the
You know,
lunar
we
eclipse,
wrapped up
anybody?
maple.
How many got up to see the lunar eclipse? Anybody? Just raise your hand if you're visible. No, I'm seeing a lot of head shaking nose. Uh-oh. I didn't either, so don't worry about it. You see one, you see them all. Uh, but anyway, I ever tell you the story of a misidentity? Happened to me many years ago at Williams Grove Speedway. I was standing in line to get into the pits by myself, and this guy came walking down the road, kept looking over at me like I should know him, sort of thing. And he finally came over to me, and instead of me being playing smart and saying I had no idea who you are, um, he thought I was somebody else, obviously, and I learned very quickly I was from New Jersey. And yeah, I played with him. He said, "How long did it take you to get here?" I said, "About 3 hours." Uh, and a couple other questions, and then I he walked on, and I was so embarrassed. I got out of line and took a walk. Like, Jerry, what did you just do? I mean, that's stupid. You know. Well, when you know it, after the races were over, I was walking down pit road, and he comes to me again. Like, oh, here he is again. He said, "What'd you ever do with all your racing stuff?" I said, "I sold it." So when he got back to New Jersey and maybe saw the guy who I was supposed to been, uh, and that guy would have said I wasn't there. Uh, who's the guy who I was talking to? Oh, anyway, oh my. Hey, Renee, you know what you get when you have a telescope and a microscope collide?
What?
A kaleidoscope.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't have come up with that one. Yeah, I did have something cute happen this week.
Oh, okay,
My
yeah.
store, my story time. I had a room full of about 23-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and everything was about wind this week. And I asked them if they ever felt the wind, and all of them in unison blew on me, which was the cute. They made wind inside. I was amazed. I don't know how they all thought to do it at the same time, but it was really
Oh,
cute. So if you ever
ins
need wind, just let a bunch of 3-year-olds blow on you.
what an inspiration.
Might have been a little rain in that too.
Yeah, right. A little heavy dew. All
Mhm.
right. We're gonna start our intro part tonight. And there we go. Hey, this is the 141st episode of the Zoom Rock Room. 141, nine more, which I think is, if I calculated right before, it's into August, is going to be our 150th. Uh, I think. So anyway, joining me is Renee, and sponsored by Lair Architect in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. And I do appreciate and thank the people who have emailed them, uh, that you appreciate the Zoom Rock Room. It's actually, I have sent them an email about renegotiating our next season, which is April to April. The bill's coming up pretty soon to pay Zoom again, so I have put an invitation out to them to continue their relationship with us. So we hope Paul and Marcella will be able to continue for what would be like their fifth year, I think, fifth year five. Buttonwood Nature Center in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. They have their Facebook page, and they got lots of programs just like starting up now. The When we went off the air, the for the last show, I had just learned that the bridge over the creek to access their new property was dedicated and um, is open. So that's great news for that facility to be able to access it. They are coming to a close on their capital campaign. They've done very, very well with the capital campaign, and I have a I've been told that there are some people within this room that have uh, have helped that along a little bit. So we thank you, whoever you are, for helping the Buttonwood out for their new facility. And a couple programs coming up, March 22nd. Actually, that's this Saturday, right? No, yeah, this Saturday. Um, is there Owl Prow, 7 p.m. at the Buttonwood Nature Center. Uh, Go out and see the owls at nighttime. Really a cool program. I always enjoyed doing owl walks when I was still working. And the Appalachian Trail hikes. It's a series of hikes that they do. I believe the first one is March the 30th, 1 to 3, but you can check out their Facebook page or the buttonwoodnaturecenter.org and get a more detail if you want to participate in any of their programs. They're doing all kind of cool stuff now in March and April. Renee.
Retro Rocks over in Lancaster. They have all things good going on. And wide selection of fossils and minerals. I saw they just got a new collection of scented soaps in this week. Clothes, vinyl records, you name it, they got it pretty much. They're a great place to stop by and check out if you get over to Lancaster. What's
And
next?
the Dirt Man reports on Facebook. You can check out the Dirt Man reports by, let's say, going to Facebook or Instagram. Um, just did one. He just released one, I think it was last week, about caving over the winter in very, very cold water, someplace in central Pennsylvania. I don't think Andrew's with us at this point tonight, but bringing the geology to you. Renee.
Red Line telescopes. You can reach out to him for all your telescopes and binocular needs. He does it right out of his house there in Red Lion on the edge of York. He'll deliver things for free. You don't have to worry about shipping and handling and all that stuff.
Great. Take it right out the door if you buy it,
Yep.
sort of thing. Our schedule for the Zoom Rock Room in the next month or two. Of course, tonight Chris Haefner is with us about the Cambrian, Kinzers Cambrian explosion, which I'm really looking forward to. April 1st, show and tell night, folks, with you, participants. So bring something to the table with you. If you want to use pictures, slides, you may email those to me and I'll put them into a program if you want me to do that. Uh, Anything that you've collected or you found or you bought, whatever. Just bring it along April the 1st. This is not an April Fool's joke, by the way. But yep, show and tell night will be there. Okay, April 15th. Jody Salpizio will be talking about the Master Watershed Stewart program, which is through through Penn State. And I just did a program for Jody this past week, so she's going to do a program for you. In May, we have the Nature Quiz Night with prizes from Retro Rocks. And Renee and I will come up with some questions that you will answer, keep a little bit of a score. The Klondike Gold Rush by Paul Faley. It's our regular in the room, May 20th. And June 3rd at this point is What's New in South Mountain, Pennsylvania, with me, the new geology of South Mountain. And I can tell you, looking ahead into July, um, middle of July, we have a expert talking. Is going to be talking about uh, fracking and earthquakes. That's been a subject that's been kind of requested for a while, And I finally got a reference to somebody who works in that field, and he has picked the middle of July to make us uh, aware of earthquakes and fracking together. As far as the Jones Geological Services are concerned, if you're in the New York area, April 1st and 8th are two Tuesday programs. We'll be doing the geology of the York County parks. April 6th, uh, York Springs Lions Building, the old Sulphur Spa Historical Society, uh, has brought us in to do dinosaurs and volcanoes because they're sitting right in a cool area. This side of town, we find the dinosaurs. This side of town is the volcanoes. So come out there
Ooh.
at 2 o'clock. It is open to the public, which I just discovered within the day or so. And if you're really lucky and she behaves herself, Renee may be there. Uh,
Well, I
um,
have to know which side I'm on, the dinosaur or the volcanoes.
you can choose.
So,
And April 10th, Hanover, Pennsylvania, 7 o'clock. The Wareheim Myers Mansion. I'll be talking about the geology of the Gettysburg battlefield and the Hanover conflict. Many of you have seen my Gettysburg program. Had in a little bit there about the Hanover conflict, how the geology played a role in that one. Okay, Cador State Park, Renee, you want to highlight this stuff?
yeah, so pretty much all we have left for programs is for March is on Saturday with the shed antler hunt at 3, and actually that woodcock walk, which they are out calling in masses. If you've never gotten to hear or see a timberdoodle, they're amazing. I bumped it to 7 o'clock because I forgot about the time change when I scheduled it. So if you want to show up and talk early, I'll be there at 6:30, but we're not gonna start talking woodcocks until 7.
So I don't think the woodcocks can really tell time anyway, can they?
They cannot, no.
And your maple sugar
It was
and
fun last year. Last year I got to see them twice because they had finished down here, and then I went upstate for the solar eclipse, and I got to see them again up there because
uh,
they were a couple weeks behind. So
yeah,
that
that's
was
right.
pretty cool.
Yeah, about a year ago, almost the solar eclipse already. Okay, a bus trip you may want to go on if you're in the York area again. Geology and history of southwestern York County, which includes Cador State Park, by the way. Sponsored by the Spring Grove Area Historical Preservation Society. This one's on May the 5th, a Monday, and it's a fundraiser for them. They're doing some archival preservation of some maps and artwork. And if you go to their website, there's actually two other bus trips also mentioned. One to Delta in July, and we're doing the Gettysburg Battlefield geology in September. So if you want to go on a nice bus trip, there's one of three or all three. Another program is on Thursday night, May the 1st in Waynesboro at the Church of the Apostles, one of my favorite programs because I get a good crowd coming from Waynesboro and suburban, and I'll be doing your backyard geology this year about the geology of Waynesboro and South Mountain, and some of the new information I will actually be sharing with this room in uh, in June. So that's on May the 1st. 2 days later, we're doing the bus trip, our annual geology bus trip up to Schuylkill County, a little bit further north of Schuylkill County. We're going to do the number 9 coal mine tour in the morning, and then to spend the afternoon at the New Ringgold fossil site, which is a great fossil site for all kind of shells, trilobites, anything that was living during the Devonian period 390 million years ago. You can find at New Ringgold, and the bus is filling up. $65 for members, $70 for non-members. That's really a bargain, it really is. So check it out on their website. Now I want to bring in. This was brought to my attention actually late last night when I was still in a meeting at 11:30 last night. Uh, but somebody, his name is Paul Nevin, who's a petroglyph expert, carvings on rocks, and he's actually hopefully going to do a program for us in the summer. But anyway, Paul and I have been talking about some petroglyphs that are in this horse farm down in Maryland. There's somebody else in the room tonight, I believe he's here, that has been there with us and me and figuring out the geology. This is a rock called diabase. It's an igneous rock, and it does have markings on it, but Paul introduced to me last night a new technology. It's a Kyra engine, Kiri engine. And here's a diabase rock that he wanted me to look at close up and personal. And this is what new imagery does now. You can actually take a picture of that rock by walking around it about 3 times, taking different angles, and you can move the rock around however you want to. Isn't that cool? And here's the petroglyphs that he's been trying to study right there. You see lines going across, lines going up and down. Here's one down here. I'm pretty well convinced that they are markings from farmers or somebody that was trying to move the rocks around. This is a freshly
Derek,
broken piece of
you're
diamond.
still on the first photograph if you were pointing something out there.
Can you see the rock moving?
No,
Oh, you can't.
no.
Oh, okay. It's not showing up then. Okay.
Hated to interrupt, but
No, that's important anyway. So you can't see that photo. Okay. I'm not sure.
no, it's still just a picture.
That's not going to work on that link then. Okay. So anyway, let me go back here. Um, let me get out of there. How do I get out of there? Tell you what. Okay. Yeah. If you use this KIRI engine, what happens is you would walk around uh, you would walk around the rock about 3 times with your camera, and it would ah, walk around the rock with your camera, your phone camera, and it would you take about 60 pictures, and then it would do a 3D image for you. And you can bring it really close to you. You can flop the rock upside down or sideways, like it's suspended in midair. Really, really cool, and it's free. So for photographing rocks, minerals, fossils, uh, you can make that thing turn and see all angles of it. So maybe next time I see you, maybe I'll have it down. I haven't really fooled with it yet myself, but anyway. So there are lines on this rock that I think were made by earlier farmers trying to move the rocks around with some kind of machinery. Paul's not quite totally convinced yet that that's the case. All right, that's the end of that part of the program tonight, sort of thing. So I'll have I'll have that down for you next time I see you. I'm not sure why the link didn't show up on your screen, but I'm not a tech person. So what else did I have? Oh, yes, a laughing motorcycle. You know how a laughing motorcycle sounds? Yamaha ha 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 ha. I thought that was cute too, but apparently nobody else in the room did. Okay. Um, have a nice crowd in the room tonight. Thank you for coming in because this is going to be a real doozy of a program. Uh, Chris Haefner, I've known for quite a while, and Chris got his love for minerals, fossils. He was involved in the Peckway silver mine when it was I call it a tourist trap. Uh, wow, 50 years ago almost, I guess, and over in Lancaster County, and his uncle was very big into mineral collecting, and several other people John Coolidge was another one that he hung out with and learned a lot about the trilobites. And Chris is a Lancaster Countian, and he's been studying the Kinzers formation, which is a Cambrian age formation in southeast Pennsylvania that's been a surprise to a lot of people because Chris himself, and as I'm sure he will tell you, discovered a brand new world first fossil within the Kinzers formation not too many years ago. So I asked Chris to do his program on the Kinzers Cambrian explosion, which is going to be really, really cool to me. Chris, by the way, is the president and founder of the Lancaster County Fossil and Mineral Club. His wife is along tonight. I understand she's the technician tonight, and and Chris is the presenter. So said they both have grown this Lancaster County Fossil and Mineral Club into a very successful club, and they have events during the year also, other than their monthly meetings. So, Chris and Catherine, good to have you all here tonight. Go ahead and share your screen, and off you go. What a beautiful day today, wasn't it? Wow.
If we're on there, how do we know we're on?
I'll tell you.
Can
You're,
you see? Can everybody see and hear us right now?
you got it.
Okay. Um,
Okay. Oh,
hold on. She's in charge of all this.
hang on. Right. So that's
She knows what she's doing.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, the club's in its 11th year now, and Cathy's a co-founder. She's also the treasurer of the club. So we have a 10-year plus tenure now with all that. I'm going to talk about the Cambrian explosion only in context of the Lancaster and York County in the Emmetsville formation, where it prevails here just for us. If I talk about it worldwide, we'd be here for a day. So we've done a lot of digging over here, so there's a lot to talk about. One of the remarkable things about Southeast Pennsylvania is that the entire Paleozoic period is represented in our geological formations. We have representation from the Cambrian, the Ordovician, the Silurian, the Devonian, and the Carboniferous. And that's kind of unique compared to a lot of states in the United States. And we take it for granted, but you go other places and you might have one or two. We have everything here. Um, yeah, you go ahead.
All right. So Chris's interest in both fossils and minerals was fostered as a youth by several uncles, all of whom were geology professors. Because of his uncles, Chris had many unique opportunities where he learned how to seek out amazing fossil and mineral specimens. Chris's finds include an echinoderm fossil called the Yorkicystis haefneri. In 2013, Chris and his wife, Catherine, which is me, co-founded the Lancaster County Fossil and Mineral Club to share the interest in earth and mineral sciences with the local community. Chris further shares his zeal for geology by serving the community as a guest speaker and hosting field outings to teach people of all age groups the history and geology of his favorite locales.
It's you or me.
You.
Okay, the Kinzers Shale, since its initial discovery in the 1830s, geological survey, the Kinzers Shale of Lancaster and York counties in southeast PA has yielded significant fossils of the 510 to 514 million year old coastal seas of the early continents, and some of these are new to science. The Kinzer Shale represents the 510 to 514 million year old range of the Lower Cambrian. This was part of the Cambrian explosion, the explosion of life forms that first appeared, then proliferated in the early oceans along the fringes of the continental shelves. That's important to state, and it's important to know that this is the fringes of the continental, they were islands at the time. We were located down where the central Brazil is today. And we can tell how big the landmass was exactly by the representation of the pelagic life from back at that time. The early ocean. Now, this is a picture of Laurentia, which represents us. I don't have a pinpoint for Lancaster County in there, but it was a small island at the time anyway, compared to what the continent is now. Positions of the early continents were close to the equator. Um, the black line on the map indicating tropical climates. Creatures abounded along these island earths in the warm waters, and this was the Iapetus Ocean right here. Cambrian life flourished everywhere. Today, these fossil forms can be found throughout the world. These fossils act as indicators, giving us clues as to where the land extents reached and the associated life that lived in proximity to the future continental land masses. Laurentia, shown in the center, on the left, is where we are today. The Cambrian explosion represented the proliferation of pelagic life that included arthropods, both soft-bodied and hard-bodied worms. Um, Most of these life forms lived and thrived in the tidal zones of the early continents, which were ever so slowly drifting, colliding, and rising in stages of development. But the stability of these continental fringes provided life, sustaining environments for millions of years at a time as these creatures first made their appearance, then rose and fell in the order of subsequent survival. That was an important aspect of it, that even though like the lower Cambrian and the middle Cambrian and the later Cambrian, the newer Cambrian, there was stability for a long, long time. It could be 4 million, 5 million, 8 million years. And that's a long time for life to live, proliferate, and move on, and, if they didn't pass into the next event. Citing the sites in Lancaster County, running through roughly the center of Lancaster County in a swath about 8 miles wide are the outcrops of Kinzers Shale, first depicted in the 1830s Geological Survey of the area. Fossil outcrops were initially found near and around the old railroad depot in the tiny village of Kinzers, PA, and that's the railroad depot as it is. Well, I don't know when that picture was taken, but it's still there. And that's how they found the Kinzers Shale, because they had put the railroad through in the little town east of Lancaster, and the rock they had to go through was the Kinzers Shale, and they saw the fossiliferous nature of it. East Petersburg, Donnerville, Manheim Township, Columbia have also all yielded fossiliferous sites specific to these remnant Kinzers seafloor shales.
I believe this postcard is actually from 1912, but I don't have that
That's right.
depicted.
That was a postcard from a little over 100 years ago, but it's still there today. Modern day remnants. In places all over the world, remnant rock hosting fossil evidence in the shales remain. Significantly, Australia, England, Spain, Morocco, Canada, and several states in the USA, including Nevada, Utah, California, Alabama, and good old Pennsylvania, have above ground deposits of these early ocean continental fridges with ample fossiliferous material. In both York and Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, exist isolated pockets of the thick Kinzer Shale, which represents the earlier deposition of fossil-rich sediment rock from, again, the 510 to 514 million years ago. It used to be 515, 516. Along the way, in my lifetime, it's been now changed and lowered to the 510 to 514. Shown on the left is Dr. Roger Thomas, Professor Emeritus from F&M College, holding fossiliferous Kinzer Shale. This picture was taken just a few years ago, because every time that we see that we notice that somebody is excavating for whatever reason they're excavating, and we see Kinzer Shale come out, we go ask if we can go in. This was a building site on Columbia Avenue, just west of Lancaster, and we got permission to go in there for a week to go check out the shale, and he's right by the road down there. I went back into the deposit deeper. We found trace material at this site, but we didn't find enough to make it worthwhile to A, we could have purchased all the rock and had it placed somewhere and gone through it, or that was really our only thing. That's the only thing we could have done. We could have purchased the rock, or maybe had him sit it somewhere on the property, and we pay some kind of a fee for it to stay there that it can be hauled out later. If it had found a lot of material there, we looked for a week. I put in about 40 hours looking. Dr. Thomas just came one day for a couple of hours just to see what we could see. And also, I wanted the owners to meet him because he got his PhD at Harvard, and no one's going to say no to him. This is a map of Pennsylvania that I'm sure everybody has seen. Southeast PA is the Cambrian Age rock. Cambrian Age rock shown as the gold color on the map. Where's the gold in there? Right here. That nice gold right there. Exists in an 8-mile wide swath of pocketed outcrops that slightly arcs across the extreme southeastern part of Pennsylvania. So when you look at this, you can see where your Cambrian Age rock exists. Now remember, not all Cambrian Age rock is fossiliferous. Some of it was turned into limestone. We're only looking for the shales where you have the opportunity to find. But you can see right through the center of Lancaster, a little bit to the north of the center, and then bearing down into York County and touching Adams County, you have the places where I've been, notably, and where these material has been found prolifically. Fossil sites in Lancaster County. This is where Lancaster City right here. I don't know what the significance of the hammer is.
It's just looks.
The Donnerville Quarry. Deemed a deeper water environment, the Donnerville Formation, up to 150 feet thick, the thickest part of the Kinzers that we're aware of. This site hosts an abundance of molted olenellid and Wenaria cephalons, and cephalons, of course, are the head of the fossil. These creatures, because they're arthropods, they molted to get bigger, and as a result, the often you find just the heads marked into the shale, but you can get nice couple segments with it too. And especially at this site, you found really, really big fossils here. At this site here, I found several that were 8 inches, and according to the cephalons, we think that they could have been 10 to 12 inches because by the measurement of the head segment, the cephalon, you can probably guess pretty accurately how big your trilobite might be. The Wenaria picture here measures 8 inches from tip to tail. So here was an 8 incher of flush fossilization. It wasn't positive, it wasn't negative, it was flush, which is an unusual type to find. Over the long periods of deposition, splashes of more conducive paleo environments allowed for smaller tribites, meaning that in here in Donnerville, you still could find some juveniles. And I had found some beautiful juveniles, but they weren't abundant. Sponges also abounded in this deposit, giving credence again to this was a deeper water environment. That's how it's been signified as a deeper water because the bigger trilobites were out and about. The sponges were everywhere. The Fruitville Quarry, the one that most people know about and most people in their lifetime, if they're persistent, have an opportunity to go visit. Our club went there in 2016 with Franklin and Marshall College because of Dr. Thomas. Fruitville Quarry is located just 2 miles north of Lancaster City, is owned and maintained by Franklin and Marshall College. For over 70 years, this site has been a research area for students, clubs, and special guests. This paleo environment contains abundant lensins, sections of juvenile Olenellus trilobites, Wenarias, Saltarellas, and echinoderms, often in express three-dimensional preservation. Anyone who's been to Fruitville and found enough trilobites, you can tell whether that has trilobite somebody shows you has come from Fruitville or not. One must remember that, as with all sites, millions of years of evolution are expressed in its formation. Sometimes environments changed, allowing for richer or poorer or no preservation at all. So when you get to a site, you might have 25 feet of rock at Fruitville expressed there on a slant, maybe 20 feet. Haven't been there for a few years. You have to look at that rock and understand you might be looking at 3 million years. You might be looking at 4 or 5 million years. So just because you find a trilobite in one part of the shale doesn't mean you're going to find it all the way through. A lot of time is going by in the preservation and solidification of that rock. Solderellas. Solderellas are enigmatic conical-shaped sessile Cambrian creatures that existed in paleo-rich environments. Typically, solderellas are used as indicator fossils in that when present, often abundant life existed around them, juvenile Ulanellids especially. This is a plate that I have from York, PA. There's 100 solderellas on this plate. I actually counted them. And I found a lot of plates like that up there. The Fruitville Quarry is also a place where you can find a plate with multiple saltarellas. These conical shaped creatures, nobody yet has figured out what they were. I have collected all the studies by all the specialists over 100 years. Nobody knows what they were because we can't determine what kind of creature lived inside. Maybe this piece here was found in a soft-bodied lens, and you have expressed three-dimensional complete ones. They're not negative impressions, as some of them are. Most of them are complete. Maybe something that I have could have had some kind of remnant residual substance inside that was fossilized and determine what it was. So I might have something in the solderellas that I have to try to determine what these guys are. Maybe somebody will figure it out someday, maybe they won't. Getsy's Woods, another one that people often hear about. Since the 1920s, the old Noah Getz farm, just 2 miles west of Rohrstown, which is about 5 miles from my house, has been known throughout the paleo world in that certain lenses of preservation here were phenomenal, yielding soft-bodied parts, antenna even, of the Ulanellus trilobites, and a specific Ulanellus species, the Getzi. Most of the Getzi specimens were collected in the 1920s by field study scientists from Yale University's Peabody Museum, and many of those collected specimens still reside there. Uniquely, they were collected by breaking up large boulders of Kinzers shale still assembled in the old stone building foundations of the original Noah Getz farm. Mostly unknown even today is the fact that there is still a small half-acre portion of the original quarry Mr. Getz used to facilitate the construction of his building foundations, and it is fossiliferous material. Ulanellus trilobites can still be found there. East Petersburg and environs. Amid the town of East Petersburg, a few miles north and west of the city of Lancaster, and throughout the ample farmland adjacent to it to the west, are underlying deposits of Kinzer shale that sometimes are inadvertently excavated for business or residential purposes. Often, if enough rock is removed from the soil, many examples of lower Cambrian fossils can be found. Richer lenses have been unearthed, which reveal all types of echinoderms, such as the Camptostroma radii, pictured here, and Lepidocystis. And I go ahead, and I want to say that in East Petersburg, there is a farm where they put flowers out every year for people to buy. They have a nursery. What's the name of it? Leebrook Farms. And they excavate Kinzer shale up out of the neighbor's property that he runs across when he's starting to farm. And they have sold this on platform skids for cheap. And people should make note that you can go to there in the spring or early summer, and if you see any of the Kinzer shale and you just notice it might have fossiliferous remnants of anything, I would buy the $75 skid because you might get rich.
Yeah, they sell it as landscaping rock.
They sell it as landscaping rock. I've never told them that there's fossils in it because I might want to buy a skid someday. Then they'd raise the price. Although certain areas in the Lancaster County Kinzers were known for yielding prolific soft-bodied preservation, almost any area within the Kinzers could yield similar results. Soft-bodied preservation is the highest level of preservation because this is when the greatest amount of fossil was preserved. If all the available Kinzer shale in the county were dug up, which would no doubt be strewn with rich fossiliferous lenses as well, and it would be everywhere. Some of the Olenellid types, as the Kinzers was being excavated due to development of areas across Lancaster County, new sites became known and were given names as per their location. Each gave its unique contribution, mostly by amateur collectors who were enterprising in their belief that trilobites could and would be found there. Subtle differences settle the attribution of different species. The Getzi was found first at Getsy's Woods. Rodii, which a lot of people are trying to rename off the Thompson eye, was Dr. Roddy from Millersville University. The Science Center is named after him. And the Winaria from Atrius Wanner from York, PA.
And the next slide is, I'm going to be doing the next couple. The major contributions. Along the timeline of investigation and discovery, various finds by three particular people made for significant contributions. We have Atrius Wanner from York, Pennsylvania, Dr. Rodai from Millersville University, and Dr. John Price from the Lancaster North Museum. Atrius Wanner was a naturalist from York County who was an avid collector of fossils and Native American artifacts. With help from the head of the Washington Academy of Natural Science, Wanner's discovery of the first Winaria walcottii from the Kinzers Shale of West York, Pennsylvania, was introduced as a new genus and species of Oenellid trilobite. His relentless work significantly contributed to the importance of the geologic formations of the Emmetsville member of the Lower Cambrian of southern Pennsylvania. This paper here is one of the original handouts of the presentation by Dr. Walcott on behalf of Atrius Wanner of York, Pennsylvania, describing the Winaria walcottina for the first time to the Washington Academy of Sciences. This paper is dated July 13th, 1901. Dr. Walcott, widely known for his later discovery of the Burgess Shale in Yoho National Park, British Columbia, and Atrius were fossil hunting buddies. Together, they scoured over known outcrops of the Kinzers Shale in search of Cambrian life.
How do you see them buttons?
Dr. Roddy. Dr. Roddy was a professor and scientist from Millersville University who frequently visited Lower Cambrian sites in and around Lancaster and York counties with his science classes and privately. Of significance is that he discovered the Oenellus roddii, a unique species of trilobite, and it was named for him. Dr. John Price. Dr. John Price was a longtime curator of the North Museum in Lancaster City and a naturalist like no other. His days were devoted to scientific exploration, study, and sharing his knowledge with others, especially younger geology students. His contributions of significance were made in the naming of an Ordovician-age starfish from the Martinsburg Shale of Swatara Gap. In current times, Dr. Price was responsible for leading many fossil and mineral enthusiasts in their fields of geology.
Okay. The fossil sites of York County, PA, running through roughly the upper center of York County, are sporadic outcrops of the Kinzer Shale. West of the city exists the now noted City View Church property, where soft body preservation allowed for many exciting fossils to be found. In the beginning, it's a church, that's why we did that. In 2001, a City View Church began building its church about the center of the hilltop on flat grassland. And then it's a city view. You can actually see the whole city from up there. Kinzers rock representing Cambrian life forms and preservation underlie most of the church property, but have only small areas of surface rock visible. These rocks had to be excavated to create a building foundation, not a basement, just a foundation for footers for the big church. Initially, all displaced rock from the church excavation was hidden from view in the fields behind the manicured landscape. It was a 24-acre site up there. Avid fossil enthusiasts were permitted to hunt for and collect the abundant fossils they found on City View property. But in the beginning, before 2014, they were allowed to collect along Roosevelt Avenue and up into the skirting of the up the hill slopes, which no longer really exist because that's all been widened and built over by the road being widened. So initially, this property was known about for a long time before we got involved.
City View Church, York, Pennsylvania. Showing is the back portion facing east of the 20-acre hilltop that comprises the City View Church Kinzers site. The visible shale exists in only a few Kinzers boulders, which can be seen only as dirt spots here behind the church pavilion. The search for phospholiferous rock required digging into the sod anywhere from a few inches to over a foot deep by hand and shovel. If rock was struck, it might be a place that could yield fossils or not. The depth of the folded Kinzer shale here might be extensive, with more intact remnant portions even deeper. Leaving no stone unturned. After the initial 6-month foray in the field behind City View Church, the die-hard fossil collectors who thought they had broken up all the rock left with their respective trilobite stashes. Chris, however, determined to find more fossils, stayed. Venturing among the thick weeds near the rock dumps and beyond, Chris carefully looked into the lawn grasses for jutting outcrops of Kinzer shale. Not locating too many obvious spots to dig, Chris began an arduous hit-and-miss battleship-style digging strategy to locate the Kinzer shale. Here are some of his finds.
Now, before we go on, I want to explain what really happened. In May of 2014, when our club was in its third month and we had our third meeting, there was a York resident who joined our club, Steve Bowermaster, if anybody knows him. He joined our club meeting that night, and at the end of the meeting, at the conclusion, he told me and Cathy were standing there, and there were a few members who stayed behind, that the fossiliferous rock that had been dug up 13 years before in 2001 had been moved to the back part, way away from the church at the tip end in the eastern part of their 24-acre lot, in the weeds, and nobody we could even tell it was back there. So what happened is that interested us, and one of our members went ahead of us, even though he shouldn't have, and went there in the end of July and started digging the rock up. I didn't find out about it till a little bit later, that it was actually fossiliferous in nature. So I went there a month later, and between September and the end of that year in 2014, I actually found 110 trilobites, including trilobites in the rock that it was Kerry Matt, and he didn't go through his rock thoroughly, and I found 110 more trilobites, including doubles and triples, and I even found a Tizoia, and it was the first Tizoia found, a little crab-like creature, in over 110 years, the first one found. So what happened is I asked City View Church. So Carrie and I brought some people in from Virginia and other places. We worked on the site for September, 3.5 months, and all the rock in the back was done. It was all broken up. Carrie had nice trilobites. I had triple what he had. And a few other people from a few other places came in the club, a couple guys, and everybody kind of got something there. But when I was done with that, I wasn't done with the property because I knew that rock was taken out at the church. So it was a big enough property that I took my insurance from the club. I think it was $3 million. I applied it towards me and made it an actual contract with them, a legal one, that I could stay there indefinitely. And I stayed for 4 years and a month and a half. and I was allowed to dig on the property and could to get what I could get as long as I kept the manicuring back up. I probably exceeded what they wanted me to do, but the property was left expertly by the end. Just you or me.
Yeah.
Just showing you some of the creatures that were found here. What we had to do is, all you had is lawn. So when you walk out to a 20-acre lawn of any property anywhere today, look over 20 acres of grass. Now, would you stay there for 4 years and 1 month and put 750 hours, because mine's all documented, and would you dig in the ground, in the dirt, to go down to find to see if there was rock there in the first place? And then if the rock was there, you have to haul it off to the sides in the weeds so it wouldn't mess up the property. Crack it open and do that for 4 years. I did. On the left right here is a double negative positive, 3.5 inch wineria. A lot of the winerias there, they have the skirt on the bottom and they don't have tail spines. There was a lot of winerias on that property. That was one of the prettier ones from down there. And over on the right here is a soft algae, the first soft algae that had definitive preservation where you could actually see structure. Dr. Thomas still has that piece there. Um, that both of them were found on that property. In the end, there was over 200 trilobites, winarias, or representation pieces found. 200. The Tizoia Pellini, that's the little guy up there on the top. Very, very nicely preserved. Arduous digging was required to locate pockets of shale, then remove them. After a deep hole was worked out, soil from the back fields, actually from the excavation of the church, was bucketed back to fill it and fix the grass. In all, hundreds of fossils were found, including the Tizoia Pellini, pictured here. It was the first Tizoia found it was 87 years in the Kinzers Shale. All in all, it was a blissful experience. That's my quote. Finding things happen more times than not. More awesome winarias from York, PA. One on the left is at F&M College right now. If you can get into Hackman Hall, that's on a 1 foot long plate, and I think again that's a 3.5 inch winaria. See the skirt on the bottom, no tail spine. Plate on the right, it was a triple plate of three winarias. Again, you can see the skirt on the bottom, and it doesn't have a tail spine if you know trilobites. That was rare to find three winarias, and they were all 3.5 inches.
Ooh, baby. Chris found this 9-inch long, 7-inch wide dinner plate size Oenellid in 2018. It is one of the biggest winarias ever found in the Kinzers Shale.
Right, and that one I gave to Carrie Matt, and he then sold it to someone else. But
Dean Rucco.
if anyone sees that 9 inch, that was me who found it, because I have the original pictures. When everything was found, it was documented. Soft-bodied arthropods. There's something significant about this double plate. Double plate, unknown type of arthropod, is on display at Hackman Hall at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, PA. You get in Hackman Hall, you can go look at that and see what the initial analysis was, because now it's been discovered it's something else. I discovered the fossil in May 2017, later donated it to Franklin and Marshall College. Up close, you can clearly see appendages and pincher claws, even though you can't the way it is right now. But the significance, that this is a different one. But going back to the one that we just had, what has been determined about this creature now, that it was not, we thought it was an anomaloclarid, but it's not. This material in here, they're 8 inch creatures on 1.5 foot long plates. It's a double plate. It's representation. It would have been positive, negative, but it's all flush. It's all even amount on both sides. They're believing right now this is a chordate. So chordates, cartilage creatures, are not really found in the Cambrian. This is probably a chordate, and nothing like it has ever been found. And Franklin Morse is going to hold on to it till we can find an expert who deals with Cambrian age possible chordates, because that's what we think we have here. This was another unknown arthropod. You can see the body segmentation to the right, how I'm looking at it. You can see the head, and down below it, dangling, especially in the front section of the creature, you can see it has appendages and pincher claws. That's what you see on the bottom. There's two sets of arms that extend down with pincher claws. We thought it was a Lanchoya, but it's probably something new. There's a close-up. Looking at it, you can see it a little bit better. This is the far extreme of the picture would be the head, the assembly of the head, and you can even better see the pincher claws dangling down below it, about 1.5 inch, 2 inches in off the screen, midway through the screen. But you can definitely see that there, and this again, we don't know what it is. It could be something brand new. What you have to do when you get this far with it is get it to the specialists. And then we come to the Yorkicystis haefneri. The top photograph is one of the actual fossils found at City View Church on May 5th, 2017. I knew what I was finding was important there. I didn't know this thing was important yet, but I documented everything I found, when I found it, where in proximity of the 24 acres I found it. Note that the black part is the carbon imprint of the entire body. 3 years later, a paleo artist rendering of this sea creature is down below. This was and is the world's only echinoderm that did not calcify its body while it lived. Now, take note of that. When I found that at City View Church, I found two of them a year apart. This was the original one found. I didn't know what I was looking at. I thought it was just the ambulacra, or feeding appendages, of Camptostroma radii, which for some reason didn't have its body intact there. As it turned out, that this is the black is the body, but they did not calcify during its lifetime, which has never happened in any other echinoderm that ever lived in the world or lives today. This is the one and only creature that had that happen. It did not structure a defense mechanism with its body for reasons that no one may probably ever understand. But they took it to 4 scientists in Baylor and one in Spain and two in London. They worked on it for, I think, 5 years to it. In all, then, 2 specimens were found 1 year apart at City View site. Both specimens were given to the London Museum of Natural History. Having 2 specimens eliminated the possibility of this being an anomaly. So let me explain that. When I found it in May of 2017, I posted that picture on Facebook. I didn't know what it was. I could have left it there. I wasn't happy with it. I'd rather have found a trilobite that day. So I posted it on Facebook, and within a couple weeks, the leading echinoderm specialist in the world, Dr. Samuel Zamora from Spain, saw it and responded back to me that he would like to see that close up. And I sent it to him. I debated it for a while, and in July, I sent it to him in Spain for him to do whatever work he was going to do on it, determine whether it was worth anything, or, I wanted it back or whatever. I had no idea what was going to happen with it. Neither did he at first. But this is the guy right here. So remember that Facebook did that. I could have it in my collection right now as an anomaly. Instead, look what Facebook did for me. So Dr. Samuel Zamora, a professor from Spain who specializes in echinoderms fossils, first noticed the Facebook photo showing the fossil we now call Yorkicystis haefneri. He responded with many a great questions. After much discussion and deliberation, I finally agreed to send the fossil to him for scientific study. Dr. Zamora led a collaborative effort with several other professors to do research, and Zamora presented their findings at the 63rd meeting of the Paleontological Association Conference in Valencia, Spain in 2019. The evidence They presented demonstrated that the fossil was actually a new family, genus, and species of life. Now, that's uncharacteristic because today in the world, you can go find a new species of anything, not of anything, but there are species of fish and birds and insects that have not been found yet. And when they get found, it's typically just a new species. A genus is harder to find. Okay, we're talking about structure. And then a family is just doesn't happen anymore because these guys all got to this stuff before I was ever around. So you don't find family of life in the fossil record very often. So that was very, very unique to have something like that. And remember, I want to say this, that thought he was on to something. I knew within a year that he was on to something that he thought he was. He started to give me little hints about what this might be, and he had to figure it out where in the family of life it would be. When I found the second one, I thought I have another one, and I thought, man, I could have $1 million here. I ought to keep it, and then not even tell him. But then I relented, and I thought, well, then if everybody found that out, they just feel bad about me, and I really didn't want my reputation ruined like that. So I let him have it, and in the end of all things, I did the right thing because when it went into peer review, which is what all these suggestive theses go to, peer review can last up to 5 years or longer. In this case, it was 2. In peer review, a lot of professors could have said, well, this is just an anomaly. There was a genetic defect in this echinoderm, and therefore the body could not calcify and build a defense mechanism as every other echinoderm does. But because there was a second one found, that argument didn't even begin among the scientists because I gave the second one up. And they knew there were 2, because the power of 2 in this case would be like the power of 1,000, because this was not an anomaly. This was, and living right alongside it, it wasn't about the chemicals in the water, because the Camptostroma radii lived right along with it. And I found 30 Camptostroma radii up at that site. There might be 1,000 more. Okay, this is a poster board from the presentation in Valencia, Spain, depicted here showing the electron microscope images of the creature, as well as background about where the fossils were found. I think they had a picture of me in there somewhere. I guess that's me on the top with Dr. Thomas. So they had a picture of me when he gave the presentation.
In 2022, after 5 long years, Chris's fossil find is finally published in official scientific papers and in the local newspaper. The fossil's formal name, Yorkicystis haefneri, is finally unveiled. In 2023, Chris and Dr. Roger Thomas are currently working on a scientific paper that hypothesizes that the Yorkicystis haefneri is the predecessor of the modern day starfish.
And I want to say something and interject at this point. I did not tell the newspaper about the find at all. I was going to let it go into the scientific journals and be that as it may. So what happened is there was a newspaper, a scientist person, there was a scientist in Michigan who saw this, who had been from York, and he was still receiving the York Daily Record, and he told the York Daily Record that this scientific thing had been found in their backyard, and thus they contacted me. I was not looking for any fame or any fortune at all from it. And that picture on there is a picture of me and Dr. Thomas. We did a TV interview up there. That's City View Church, the pavilion that sits out back. Where is this, you or me?
Yeah.
Where did the starfish come from? Though 1 or 2 recent finds in the Ordovician age rock of Australia and Morocco of 480 million year old fossils have yielded early starfish like creatures like Canobragaster, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. The Yorkicystis is from 30 million years prior to these finds. Another possible theory, completely plausible, is that this creature of the early Cambrian, which already genetically decided not to calcify its main body for protection, would have required only one more deviation than to separate itself from its globular body and free itself to roam the oceans. Because next, with all of 30 million years to evolve further, it most definitely could have begun the starfish groups of the world's oceans. Now, this is just a speculation, but because of the significance of finding an echinoderm that did not calcify its body and only its ambulacra, like a starfish is, um, there's no reason for it to do that if it wasn't poor genetics and it was the intention of the creature to do this. There must have been a reason why, because the impetus of life, of all life, is to survive and procreate, survive and procreate in response to its immediate environment, what it needs for protection, what it needs to live, to gather food. Now, why would a creature like this not defend itself in a better methodology, like right beside it, the Campostroma radii was doing by the millions? One thing could be, in my suggestion, is mobility. Because if you free yourself from your body, instead of having to just be a filter feeder as things happen to come by and you collect them with your feeding appendages, you would be free to either be mobile or partly mobile and drift through the oceans and thus have a better chance to live based on your mobility. It's just a thought, it's just a speculation, but Harvard professors who've been working on this heatedly since 2017, they still cannot find and figure out how the starfish family of life began on Earth. So I decided to make a speculation in this regard for this creature.
And the conclusion is to be curious. Many fossils discussed today were found right here in Lancaster County, where we live. And since only a small portion of this Kinzer rock was ever broken in search for signs of preserved Cambrian life forms, there is most likely more exciting fossils that haven't been discovered, including more life forms still unknown to science. At some points in future time, fossil seekers will prevail upon this rock and new and exciting creatures will be revealed. So take time to check out the rocks you see. Rock hunting is fun, but make sure to always collect in areas where it is lawful to do so, and always use a rock hammer, safety eyeglasses with side shields, and a good pair of leather work gloves. Happy hunting. Who knows what great discoveries you may find. And then for more information, yeah, feel free to check out the Lancaster County Fossil Mineral Club on Facebook, join a local rock and mineral club, go to museums and check out the internet for great information about fossil hunting. And that's Chris's contact information on Facebook or through silverfordinc@yahoo.com. And that concludes our presentation. And then just one last thing of note, the paper about the paper that Atrius Wanner wrote that was here in the presentation actually goes back to City View Church.
Yeah, listen, this is one of the most important things. Listen to this. This is something that I came across. I have the original 1901, I think it was July 13th, when Atrius Wanner was helped by Dr. Walcott and took his the Wineria to the presentation at the Academy of Sciences in Washington. And when they got named the Wineria Walcottiana. When I got that paperwork, not a lot of people had ever seen an original one. He actually wrote in that paperwork, and I have it, that how he got to the site where he found the very first Wineria. Science has always thought that it came from Emmetsville. This is not true. I went to Atrius Wanner's residence where he lived, and though he used a horse and buggy to go to the fossil site, he said that from his house he went 1 mile north and 3 miles west. And if you go 1 mile north of where he lived and 3 miles west, you get right to City View Church. And some of those old diggings that were along the side slope facing to the south from City View, extremely old pits, extremely old tool pieces were there, and that had been done a century before at least. Nobody ever bothered to do anything because any development that was near there was down on the level ground. This was up on a hillside slope. And I believe because of the directions he gave, and I told Dr. Thomas somebody should do something about this, that that City View Church site, that environs there, is probably where Atreus Wanner first found the Wineria. When I first went to that site on those side slopes where nobody had been in 100 years, and I don't mean to dig it in the ground, I found a couple Winerias just by turning rocks over. And I think that's where the Wineria was first found because it's exact directions from his house. And if anybody has any questions, they can ask the questions before I plug the show I'm going to be at this weekend.
Don't have any questions yet. Got a lot of impressive work. Congrats and fantastic presentation, which it was.
It goes on
Thank you.
because, thank you, but it goes on because every time we find out something new, something that we didn't know 3 years ago, we can incorporate it into this and add more and more detail of the information. Like the Atreus Wanner thing, I had that for about 5 or 6 years, but I didn't even think about that to put it into presentation. And Dr. Thomas was astonished when he saw that he actually wrote the directions down in 1901 on the pamphlet that I have. You should have one of them 1901 submissions to the academy.
Yeah, I should.
I found mine online.
I had the Wayner family in a class about 2 months ago. His
Oh,
his
really?
That's
his,
interesting.
his relatives.
Were
Yep.
they related?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was a Wayne Atreus was like a what was he? A
a
great
great,
uncle.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Never.
I think if he was around now, I'd probably go fossil hunting with him.
Oh yeah, you would.
Back at City View Church, I'd have taken him back there. Nobody has any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions popping up here. Just
Mhm.
a lot of compliments for you.
Okay, this Saturday and Sunday, the Chambersburg Franklin Club has its show, 2-day show at the Eugene Clark Center. It's all over Facebook. If anybody goes to the Franklin County Rock and Mineral Club site on Facebook, you'll see it's a pretty good show up there, and it's not supposed to really rain any of them days. So either Saturday or Sunday, and I'll be there too, and Cathy will too. And anybody can ask me questions up there then too. And by the way, up there, I think I have about 30 or 35 Owen Ellis trilobites that I'll have for sale up there too, just to say.
And then Lancaster County Fossil Mineral Club, we have our Fossil Safari event coming up Saturday, April 5th at Trinity Church in Mountville. This is for the kids. So the kids will get to visit different states that two of our club members have extensively collected, and they'll go on a tour around to different states where they'll hear about fossils they can collect from those states, and they'll get free samples. And that event is free and open to the general public. We do request that people pre-register for the event. That event is advertised on our Facebook page.
Free to the kids. The guild's going to be there and make hot dogs and what else? Hot dogs and chips
Kid-friendly food.
for lunch.
Yeah.
And that's free, and the kids can walk away with fossils from all these. I think there's like 7 or 8 states represented, and they collect hundreds of fossils when they go out, and they give away all that stuff to the kids for free.
We do have a question here, Chris, from Steve Lindbergh about what do you think the cause of the Cambrian explosion was?
Absolutely no idea. If I said anything different, I would be a liar. I don't even want to speculate about that. I don't know that we'll ever know. How could you ever know something? Life comes from what? Maybe sometime we'll find something in the Ediacarian that will represent evolution going forward, but there's no way to know. What do you think, Jerry?
I don't think.
I don't want to answer that.
No, it's
I cannot answer it.
it's just amazing to me how trilobites just showed up.
One of the amazing aspects of it, if you want to think about everything, is that in all the places of representation of the island continents, which is what they were back at that time, these creatures showed up everywhere. In the early Cambrian and the middle Cambrian, representing California, Utah, just in the states we have here, and in England, Australia, these places were separated by hundreds, even 1,000 plus miles. Even though they were kind of a little bit together, they were thousands or hundreds of miles apart. And this same kind of life with different species and different genuses, they were showing up everywhere. So whatever happened, it happened on a scale that it wasn't just one pinpoint, wasn't a one pinprick where it happened. No, this is what we're going to be called the Kinzers Shale. We'll do it here. It happened everywhere at once. So that's the intrigue of it, and maybe that kind of thinking can bring about how did this happen, because it happened in all these various places around what was, the islands of Earth at the time. I think about that. How did it happen in all these places with variances?
Yeah.
And there were variances. It wasn't the same creatures. It can same Ellis trilobites, but they're all different. You have different species represented everywhere, all at the same time.
Yep.
Something happened. Something happened. That's what I'll say. That would be the title of my book. Something happened.
I can answer this question, but you can answer it too. Do you still do you still hunt fossils at the church site?
No.
Yeah, it's all been
Well,
reclaimed.
you know that at the church site, I stayed there till the end of 2018. They sold two portions of their property because they were building the new hospital across the way. And these were support facilities for that hospital. And when they dug the Kinzer shale up, it was not very productive. I did look at both of the excavations, especially the one in the front of the church. You could see trilobite heads or partials are broken. I didn't notice any soft-bodied lenses anywhere,
Huh.
but where I was, and I found fossils in 10% of that 24 acres. It's not everywhere. So even in the places where I was, but I do know where a lot of trilobites can be found, because I was there and I did not finish what I was doing. When it ended, I could go up there in one day, and I could find another York cistus because I know where I found them. And the one I found was right where the other one was a year later, but down about 6 inches deeper. And I could find anything there because remember, and I don't even have to document it. I know where I was for 4 years. So I know where everything is up there, and I really do. If permission would ever be gathered, you would want to get me, because instead of wasting half a year looking, I know exactly where the stuff was when I left. Some of the other stuff I cleared out down to 1.5 feet, but other places when I was still finding it, I know exactly where it is. So that's the end of it. And it's too bad because I could have brought a lot more. And I want to say this for the people of York. When I was interviewed by the television, I told the people of York, this belongs to you. This York assistance should have stayed here. And I have a lot of trilobites in one areas that I wanted to put in a museum in York, but York doesn't have one. And because they didn't have a repository, I can't give it to science for study unless it's actually given to a place of representation where it's going to be. So it couldn't go to York, but that's York's fault.
Yeah.
And I still have stuff that I would give to York. Not the York Assistus anymore, but I could find another one for them because I know where they are. They were in one spot, and I know exactly where, and I guarantee I could find more because there was very thick members there in I think it was folded shale. I think it was all folded, but I know exactly where it is, exactly where it is. I spent 750 hours there in 4 years and 1 month, and I documented where everything was found. So could there be more found? I could find it in one day. I
It's
could
not,
find
we're not permitted to collect
I
anymore.
could find a one area.
She asked what's stopping it, so we're not permitted to collect there anymore.
Is it,
They might sell their property because they got a lot of money from selling the two portions of their property. They could move if they wanted to, if they get tired of being up there and somebody else moves in, they could be inveigled to allow it. If I would dig, I would offer I have $5 million of insurance now. I would offer that for a liability, and I would let them in on everything that was found. I don't even know if I need any more, but I would give it to York Museum. If York wanted to put stuff away, I could go up there with my liability, 5 million from our insurance, and I would go there and dig for free, and I would get them their specimens. And I guarantee you, I could get them Winnerias, probably another York Assistus, because they weren't the only two that lived at the time. And then York could have everything that they want because I know exactly where it is.
uh, Steve Lindbergh, I'll just read this from him. Steve said, good answer to your theory about the explosion, but even 100,000 years would be a blink of the eye in geologic time, and a single species could spread worldwide in that time and still could be confined to just a few meters of sedimentary rock.
Yeah.
That's his theory. So,
I
okay,
have no theory about it.
I'm not seeing any other questions showing up here. So,
I have a question, Chris. I'm sorry
Yep.
if it's running over time. Hi, Chris. Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
I'm super excited about your find. I absolutely loved the preservation on the wool areas and the trilobites that you found. And I'm especially excited about the soft tissue
Mhm.
finds. Very well preserved. So my question is that have you found any corals or any other like marine plant life from the Cambrian?
When I left York, one of the last things that I found up there was a huge representation of a shoal line. And in that shoal line, it was unbelievable. When I had to leave, I had already found the York assistuses, which I didn't know what they were yet. So I wasn't interested in them yet because the work had only just begun. They knew they were onto something, but I left in 2018. It was Halloween night. When I had been up there the last week, I found a shoreline where instead of it being folded rock, if this rock was folded, I found an area that was about 50, 60 feet long by 30 feet wide of nothing but representation. And that was the last couple days there. I pulled a couple pieces out. I have a creature that I call the dangling creature that I have in the basement, which just looks like a crab with. I don't think it's a lepidocystis, but it's an unknown dangling creature. I have a whole plate of it, and another one. But everything I was finding on there, I found some brachiopods that Dr. Thomas knew what they were called, and it's the oldest brachiopod in the world. And I gave him one of them. He never paid me for it. That's a joke. I gave it as a gift, but I found incredible. And then under that shoal line, which was thick, I didn't even couldn't even get to the bottom. It was breaking in layers. Unimaginable material because instead of it being broken rock, fractured rock, a couple pieces here, a piece here, a layer here, I went and investigated it. And instead of pulling it up, except in one spot, I investigated how big it was and how intact it was. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. If that was excavated up off that property, the world would be amazed at what's under there. It would be amazing. I guarantee it. If I get a chance to go there, I will I will show, and I can give them all to York if they want them. Get permission. Somebody gets me permission. I will give them I'll give them everything, but I could get the shoreline lifted up,
That
guaranteed.
shoreline belongs in a museum for sure.
Oh, you
That
couldn't
would be a
even get it up. It's
mind-blowing
too
feat.
big. It's too big, and there
Sure.
was nothing else like that in that intact. Everything else was 1 foot rock, 2 feet deep, fractured layering of the shale, bedding planes mostly. But this thing was, I found it at the end on my last couple days there. I was so excited about measuring the extent of it that I didn't even worry about trying to dig it up until the last afternoon of the last day. I could show anybody where everything is. So it's a
Wow.
shame that it ended that way, and it's a shame that York to this day has nothing. I spoke to the mayor. The mayor came out to meet me. He came to Shups Grove with his two kids. What was his name? Helfrich?
Yep.
I don't know.
Helfrich.
He came out. Yeah, he had his two daughters, or they were kids, and he came out and talked to me, but he didn't really seem that interested. He was half interested and half not, and that ended it with him. So, and I told him all that I just told you. He stayed there a long time and listened to what I had to say. And I was so sad that York, if York had the York Assistus, I could go over there and see it. I'm never going to go to London to see it. I'm never going to go over there to see the two specimens. They sent me pictures of them from the case. They're going to stay in a special space for a couple years so researchers can come in and look at them and do what they want to do. Then they're going to go out on display. So I'm never going to go to London to ever, I'll never see them again. But York, that spot where I was, I could get York whatever they want. I could get them Winnerias. I could get them Lanellises of the three different. I found Pedumius out there. I found Messinascus out there. I found all the rare types of them out there, doubles, triples, a plate of 20 some juveniles on. It's all still there. I scratched the surface. I guarantee you shouldn't have got me started on that. But but I'm telling you, if York wants me to get them and I get permission to use my insurance, I will dig that stuff up and it'll be all for the city of York, who should have had them in the first place.
Okay.
Well, all I have to say is that I'm in the Philadelphia area, and my friends all go for hiking trips through York and Lancaster counties several times a year during the summer. So if you ever need help with any digs, I would be more than happy to get me and my friends out there for truck. And I have my own
I don't
tools.
have permission to be there anymore at that site.
No, oh no.
No, that ended in 2018 at the end of the
Ah,
year.
oh, what a
If
loss.
I ever had permission again, I would do a dig not for me, I'd do it for York. So York could have representations to put in a museum or wherever they want to put it. What they had available was not a legitimate museum. They have some kind of a thing downtown, and it was not allowed to be put there. Um, so I couldn't give the material to York. That's what Dr. Thomas and all the scientists told me, that it's not a repository officiate. I go other places looking for the material. Getsy's Woods is still there. Fruitville's still there. But York was the best I ever found in my 40 years of doing what I do. York was number one. And some of the creatures I found have not been identified yet. The dangling creatures to, and that, remember, we have a chordate from there now. And that's never been found in the Emmetsville. So there you go, a chordate from City View Church, an 8-inch creature, double plate. That should be in York. And but incidentally, the one area I have in at the one area that I have at F&M and the chordate, the double plate, they're mine on donation. I can take them and put them anywhere I want to. If York had a museum, they would go to York.
Okay. Great program, Chris and Kathy. Thank you very much again
Thanks for the
for
opportunity, Jerry.
for doing that. And
Sure.
we'll see you over at the Lancaster Fossil Mineral Club sometime. And
Okay.
remind everybody that this is being videoed and it will be on our website at jonesdo.us in a matter of about an hour.
Can that video be downloaded?
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it.
Okay.
And remember our next meeting, April the 1st. It's show and tell night. You folks are going to be the stars. So you bring along or send me pictures or whatever. We'll be ready to hear from all of you. So
Anything. You mean fossils?
yep, anything. So
Mineral.
Renee, I'm going to let you exit with this one.
Uh-oh. What am I exiting with?
Just say goodbye.
Well,
Hey,
good
that's
night,
all, folks.
everybody. Enjoy the spring weather tomorrow. It's going to be a gorgeous day. Everybody should go rock hounding. We know where to go now. We just don't have permission.
All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks, folks. like Renee said, enjoy the weather. We'll see ya.
See you, Jerry.
Take care.